All right, everyone. So let's talk about the ongoing conflict between Israel and Hamas. I have done a bunch of posts on this, but I did not want to do a video until I could formulate my own observation on this matter. So here I am. A lot of people are talking about Iran because Iran is the biggest supporter for Hamas. The sophistication of Hamas, the ability for Hamas to continue to become more and more dangerous is primarily thanks to Iran. So this is the reason why everyone is focusing on Persia. But the country that not a lot of people in the Western media are discussing is Turkey. Erdogan stated that he wants to help to de-escalate the situation in Israel and in Gaza. And what does this mean? Does Turkey really want peace in Israel? Or is Turkey simply looking for an opportunity to be a peace broker to thereby present itself as a major player in the Middle East and to project its own power? Because the ultimate aspiration for Turkey is to revive the Ottoman Empire. And what was one of the territories of the Ottoman Empire? It was Palestine, known today as Israel. Israel was at one point in time under the control of the Ottoman Empire. So if Turkey is going to revive the Ottoman Empire, then Israel is going to be on Turkey's crosshairs. And that really is the bottom line. Remember, there was tremendous turbulency between Jews and Arabs back in 2021. There was a riot, a lot of people were killed, cars were set on fire, a lot of property was destroyed. Israeli far-rightists were attacking Arabs. Arab militants were attacking Jews. It was very, very ugly. And what did Turkey propose? Turkey proposed sending a peacekeeping force into Israel. Well, what does that mean? It means sending Turkish soldiers into Israel. And this is what Turkey proposed as part of its plan to send in a peacekeeping force. It wants to lodge its military into Israel. And Erdogan just stated recently that the only way to establish peace between the Palestinians and the Israelis is to carve out a Palestinian state and to make East Jerusalem its capital. Well, what would that do? It's very, very clear what that would do. It would thus create a Turkish satellite smack right next to Israel. Because East Jerusalem would be under the control of the Palestinians would be an ally of Turkey. Turkey would then use the Palestinians as a proxy against Israel, thereby giving Turkey a foothold smack right next to the Israelis. And this is why the Turks want to carve out a Palestinian state. So when the Turks see violence and turbulency and chaos in Israel and in Gaza, they see it as an opportunity to project their own power into the region because Turkey wants to take control of Israel. It really is that simple. Now, what other things can we expect in this ripple effect that we are currently witnessing? Well, we can expect to see the Israeli far right, the Jewish nationalists, to gain more and more influence. Why? Well, it's quite obvious why the far rightists in Israel are going to gain more and more influence. Because hundreds and hundreds of Israelis, possibly 1,000 or more Israelis, were just slaughtered. And the body count continues to increase. The last I checked, the body count is at 700 dead Israelis. And the body count continues to increase. So what do you expect people to do? People are going to be pissed off. People are going to be enraged, and they are enraged. But no matter how many Israelis are killed, another thing that we can expect is that people are going to use this whole situation as a political weapon against Netanyahu. Netanyahu still has a lot of enemies. There is still a strong opposition against him. And so they are going to be saying, and they're already saying this, how in the hell did the Israeli government allow this to happen? Because Netanyahu is all about security. For years, for decades, he has talked about security, protecting the nation of Israel from terrorists. Well, since Netanyahu is all about security, how in the hell did he allow this to happen? Why weren't there any guards in that part of the Israeli-Gaza border where Hamas was able to penetrate the security fence and slaughter all those people in that drug-taking, shroom-taking festival? How did the government allow these terrorists to slip by and enter Israel and take over towns and do mass executions and massacres and mass kidnappings? How? Why was this allowed to happen? How was this allowed to happen? So there's a lot of anger against the Netanyahu government, but of course, a lot of people still support Netanyahu, so they will see him as a hero because currently Israel is obliterating Hamas, which was very expected. And Netanyahu stated recently that he is going to reduce Hamas, all the areas in Gaza that are controlled by Hamas, or all the areas in Gaza where Hamas operates from, he's going to reduce those areas into ruins. And he said that he will enact, and his language was almost biblical. He said that he was going to enact a mighty revenge, a mighty vengeance for what Hamas did to the nation of Israel. And really, who could blame Israel, right? I mean, people on Twitter are, oh God, the poor Palestinians. What the hell did you expect to happen? You have a giant festival. Tons of Israelis are there. Germans, Americans were there. They were taking mushrooms. They were doing yoga, whatever. And you have these militants, these Islamic lunatics, descending on this festival, flying on parachutes, and they just butchered these people like they were chickens, and they were shooting at them like they were ducks on a pond. And then they proceeded to go into Israeli towns, take them over. They went door to door. They were doing executions. They were doing mass kidnappings. A lot of Israelis are still hostages of Hamas. What in the hell do you expect Israel to do? And you have all these bleeding heart people on Twitter saying, oh my gosh, look at what Israel is doing. This is terrible. But then you have people who hate Israel praising Hamas. And you have an entire population of people in Gaza who are praising Hamas, who revere Hamas, who are praising the actions of Hamas, who are praising the mass murdering actions of Hamas. They love the fact that Hamas did massacres, and these terrorists did massacres, and you have these lunatics in Gaza saying, oh yes, Allahu Akbar, this is amazing, this is great. And they took these Israeli hostages into Hamas, and they were screaming, Allahu Akbar, this is great, this is amazing. Well, how in the hell do you expect to be treated? You can't expect to be given a bouquet of flowers. Expect to get a bouquet of bombs, a giant cluster of bombs. So Netanyahu is absolutely right to bomb these people and to bomb Gaza. Any country would do this. Any country would be doing what Netanyahu is doing if they had a neighbor who just entered their country and committed massacres and mass kidnappings. So that's not surprising at all. But we can expect the far right to increase in its influence and to really just increase in its presence. More and more people are going to become more and more people are going to intensify their patriotism and their nationalism. And so the tension between the Palestinians and the Israelis is going to reach a whole new level because Israel has not seen this type of violence since the 1970s, and you can go further back than that. You can go all the way back to the massacres that took place against the earliest Jewish settlers back in the 20th century. people in Israel, the young people in Israel, the millennials, the Zoomers, I mean, they have never seen this sort of violence. The older generation, I don't think they, for the most part, have ever seen this sort of violence. I mean, people are comparing this to Yom Kippur, to the Yom Kippur War back in the 70s, but the Yom Kippur War was it was mainly violence between soldiers. I mean, this is violence against civilians, mass violence against civilians. So one could argue that this is worse than anything that the modern state of Israel has experienced. So tension, hatred between the Arabs and the Israelis is going to increase. The Arabs will become even more angry. Why? Oh, because Israel bombed Gaza and killed children. Well, yeah, they bombed Gaza, and they're bombing Gaza as a response to what Hamas did, and Hamas is supported by almost everybody in Gaza, so you can't be acting like a victim. But the problem with the Islamic world is that they refuse to see what their people do. They refuse to see what their heroes do. In this case, their heroes are the Hamas militants, and they just don't want to see, they don't want to acknowledge the horrendous crimes that these people do. And so when Hamas gets bombed, when Gaza gets bombed, they don't see it as a response to terrorism. They just want to portray it as evil Jews committing genocide, when this is not genocide. This is a response to terrorism. It really is that simple. And of course, you have trad Catholics who will bash Israel no matter what. No matter how much Israel suffers, no matter how much Israel responds, no matter the fact that Israel is responding to terrorism, they will find a way to hate on Israel. But then they'll support the Crusades, and they'll say, well, the Crusades was a response to Islamic violence. Well, Israel is responding to Islamic violence. So the tensions between the Israelis and the Palestinians is going to reach a whole other level. That whole other level is already there. So, yeah, that point is already there, and it's just going to get worse. And so future violence is going to happen. It's inevitable. And I am afraid that eventually what will happen is Turkey will say, well, we need to have some sort of a NATO intervention. Turkey is a very, very prominent member of NATO. It's the second most armed country in NATO. And my fear is that Turkey will say, well, we need to do an intervention. The violence between the Jews and the Arabs has reached a point where somebody from the outside has to get involved and put an end to it. And Turkey will propose a peacekeeping force, and they'll say, well, it's a multinational peacekeeping force, but in their minds, they would just want Turkey to be the force. But they'll propose some sort of multinational peacekeeping force. You'll have NATO soldiers there, and then NATO will say, well, Turkey is close to Israel. Turkey is also very close to the Palestinians, even closer to the Palestinians. So allow Turkey to be a peace broker, etc., and then allow for Turkish soldiers to have the preponderating presence in Israel, the most prominent presence in Israel. And then from there, Turkey will begin to start another Holocaust. Or it's possible that Turkey will just do a flat-out invasion of Israel in the name of defending the Palestinians, and from there commit another Holocaust. That is the fear that I have in all of this. And so when I see Turkey talking about, brokering a peace or helping to de-escalate tensions, the way I look at that is Turkey wants to project its power on that part of the world because, as I said, it wants to revive the Ottoman Empire, and one of the territories of the Ottoman Empire was Israel. So Turkey wants to control Israel. That is a country that we really have to focus on. I'm not saying we shouldn't focus on Iran, because Iran is also evil. Let's be real here. Iran is not a friendly country, but we should also focus on Turkey. Anyway, those are my thoughts on that. You guys just heard some theology. God bless.